Hello everyone, this is Dikshak Bhatt from Team OYG. On behalf of our team, I welcome you all again on this virtual platform. Today we have a wonderful speaker with us to share the knowledge and experience. Today we have Dr. Swatik Mahendra with us, and he is an sports physiotherapist and a biomechanist. Sir has completed his BPT in 2012 and thereafter MPT in the Sports and Clinical Biomechanics from the Manipal University, and later on Sir pursued MSc Sports Biomechanics from the Robert Gordon University, Scotland. Sir is currently working as a private practitioner using the virtual health services to help rehabilitate patients to their best selves. Sir is a registered member of a Chartered Society of Physiotherapy UK, Healthcare Professional Council UK, and Indian Association of Physiotherapists. Sir is having an experience in the working as a sports orthopedic physiotherapist in the UK and as well as India, along with the having been consultant physiotherapist for a sports fitness technology and innovation company. As per Sir, he's always been passionate about the health and fitness in the sports and general populace. He's pursued his goal and improvement in the quality of life sports performance via the strength and conditioning ever since he was a BPT student. Sir delved further while pursuing the Masters of Dual degrees. Sir is also a proud member of the uh, Think Before Sports online community, which is a sports professional from across the globe, which helps to bring the current evidence from the various fields of the sports and everyone for free. So, on behalf of our team, I welcome you, sir, on this virtual platform, and I hope I haven't missed anything from your bio, because it's a very inspirational bio for us. So I think it's maybe had to be a hazy for me to communicate this so much of an inspirational personality, sir.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Um, it's been a tough year for all of us, hasn't it? So it's just what I'm doing right now. I would love to go in the field and treat patients, but I'm elderly at home, so we can't risk exposing ourselves to the virus. That's why I'm doing virtual physiotherapy. It's an eye opener. It's different, and it's a lot more difficult to help people when you're not in person with them. So it's fun to learn new things.
But sir, actually, what you are doing is inspiring so many of students right now. So we are glad that we could connect with you at this much of time, and you share your time and knowledge with us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, let's further with the session today. And now I have some sets of questions to you because your profile is so much inspiration. So I think we could get some of the knowledge and out of you and your profile to get more out of this session.
Sure, sure.
So, my first question of today would be that how's your interest developed to coincide in sports and biomechanics, sir?
How my interest developed
Yeah,
to
how your
sports.
interest is developed, sir.
So I come from a background of science, and my father's a doctor, brother's a geneticist, elder brother. My mother was DNA fingerprinting expert in forensic sciences. So I come from a background of people who do excel in sciences. I wanted to do something which helps people not only at their worst, it's just to help people in all genres. And physiotherapists have sort of fit the bill at that point of time. And I just went into it. I didn't know whether I could pursue medicine as my profession, because just doing an MBBS isn't enough, and it's in itself it's 5.5 years of your life. Plus, you have to do PG diplomas or DNPs and masters. That generally takes you at least 10.5 to 12 years. And I didn't know I wanted to put that much time into just my education before even I start my life. So this was an alternative, and I chose that. When I started working and when I started studying in Manipal has a huge infrastructure in terms of various departments. So there I met a few of my inspirational professors who got me into learning about sports and how we can help people in sports. So my specialization is not just sports though, it's sports and clinical biomechanics. So what it means is biomechanics basically is study of your body mechanics, physics, forces, angles, and how it works and how your body parts work together to make a simple movement, like simple sit to stand. So I have treated patients with and who can't move to make them do some simple movements but in an easier way. So what we always perceive as normal or standard is it's not exactly the way. There are alternatives to doing the same movement. So finding that out and getting them to do the best energy efficient way of moving across, that sort of got me interested in doing this sports and clinical biomechanics. Then went on to do sports because I just sort of felt more connected with that. So went and I did super specialization in sports.
But even myself, I believe, studying the 3 degrees and continuously for 10 years is a huge task, because right now I'm in bachelor and I don't think I could pursue the dual master's degree as you did.
No,
So
that's not true. I'm sure you all can do that. It's not difficult as you say. Actually, it's fun for me. You get to meet new people. You get to understand new things, and especially in any sort of healthcare profession, we all need to understand people. That's the basic thing, right? Without understanding a person and what people do as a daily routine, we can't really treat them. So your normal is different than my normal, to be honest. And an elite sports athlete's routine and normal is different than either of us, because they spend 4 hours in the gym, plus they spend the rest of the time practicing their sport. So it's totally different. So the main thing that sort of helped me stay focused and study more, and even now I'm more eager to study more, is because nobody is perfect. Nobody has the whole knowledge. But meeting people, getting to know the different cultures, how it affects our work environment, and how we as people work differently, our bodies work differently. For example, nutrition. You guys are naturopathies. So nutrition is one of the biggest factors, isn't it? So our food has a nutritional value which is very different, Indian food to be precise, than compared to Western food. They have more meat-based diets, more protein-based diets. So meeting people, getting to know their habits, getting to know what ticks them off, is sort of keeps things interesting. You should always be open to new opportunities and learning. That's more important. So you
uh,
never stop in any healthcare profession. You always are learning, regardless whether you're getting a degree or not. You always learn.
so actually these are, the motivates words which keeps us going. So I think I should take the note down for these words, because I will need that in future as well. So moving on to other questions, as your profile, you said you worked in the UK and you worked in India. So what type of challenges did you face while working?
Uh, Honestly speaking, I have not worked much in India other than my internship and a few months of working in a clinical setup, just a basic
Yeah,
clinic between my graduation and my post graduation. So my first actual real job was working in the UK, and I was one of the few lucky ones who could get a job within those. We didn't have a PSW, that is post study work visa back then when I finished my education in UK. So we had barely 3 months time to get out of the country before. Otherwise, before that, we should land a job. I was lucky enough in the batch that we few of them got the job. But the thing is, practice there is a little different. They are more well versed with how physiotherapy should be integrated in particular, or how other occupations should be integrated in medicine, and they should not be taken lightly. They do have a little more knowledge about that. Knowledge is there here, but practice, it doesn't go into practice. Like for example, nurses, they are barely paid anything here. They are paid peanuts, and they are expected to work 12 to 24-hour shifts taking
yeah,
care of the patients. Same thing there. They also work the same number of shifts, but they have compensations. They have work ethics. They have a little different, way of approach, which I think is more productive in the end, because they work as a team, not just for you, but for the patient. And at the end of the day, like in today's scenario, all of the healthcare workers are overtaxed, overstretched,
Yeah, exactly.
and they don't know what they're doing at the end of the day. You know, they're so exhausted. So many of my peers, my uncles, my father's friends, and all that I've spoken to, they're just hanging on by a thread, essentially, because there's no structure there. There is more structured way of practice there. That's the only difference I would say. The challenge I faced was actually working there. I didn't face any challenge. It was more like challenging myself with patients and new diagnosis and learning new things. You know, they have a good council there that, like you mentioned in my bio, I am a member of Healthcare Professions
Yeah,
Council, CSP. For me to be able to hold that membership every year, which they review every couple of years, that I need to show that I have done some sort of professional development. As they call CPs, continued professional development. So it helps that there are a lot of courses that you can do to get certificate courses. You can continue them as distance learning. PG diplomas or something like that. But there are a lot of things that you can branch out into. Here, the difficulty is you have to leave everything your day to day and then you have to go. India, that part I found difficult. And unfortunately, it's not good to demean the country that you're from. But the problem here is there's vast amount of knowledge. There are more number of knowledgeable people and scholars in India, in my profession at least. But the problem is they don't have good infrastructure and there's no change in terms of work structure. So everybody is still stuck in the same 2012 era in 2021
exactly.
because
I,
they don't,
I agree on that point, sir.
change is essential. You have to keep updating things, not just your knowledge. They do update their knowledge. The problem is they don't update the work atmosphere. So people who just graduate, it's very difficult for them to blend in. They don't get paid enough. So a lot of people tend to change their profession. It's essential. We also need to earn, right? We need to feed ourselves and our families. It doesn't work like that. But India does have that, Dr. Bhagwan sort of attitude. So money
Actually,
is not.
awareness is left in India. We are working hard and we are paying less. So that is what happening in India right now.
The thing is, the corporate sector and everything, the privatization. People don't realize they keep blaming the doctors, the nurses, all the other healthcare professionals, and physios, that you guys are looting us and this and that. But that's not the true fact, is it? Because at the end of the day, they are not getting paid even half the amount that they are charging. It's the hospitals, the business, the health administration. They are the ones who are the middlemen, which is there in all professions, unfortunately, and it's
Exactly,
rampant.
sir.
It's rampant in India, unfortunately, and people are not trying to change it. That's the sad part. That's the challenge.
But the next question is regarding that. As the awareness should be in done, so how's your idea to increase the more awareness to the practice you are following, sir?
See, there are a lot of my friends and my seniors and colleagues who are trying to push the awareness forward in India. I have been here only for a year, and unfortunately, out of that, I've been here a little over a year. So 2019 September, October, I came back. I was like, this is the first time in 10 years since I left my home to pursue my education and everything that I'm back. So let me take a break of a couple of months and then get into work. Was my attitude, because I had barely been for more than 15 days at a time when I go at home. Uh, and unfortunately, by the time I settled into my work and everything, pandemic happened. And I didn't get to, I didn't get to see what's what in current scenario in India. But I do have a lot of friends and seniors who work here. I have my senior who is the head physiotherapist who works with Parkinson's disorder patients. So they have a society for Parkinson's disorder all across India, and it's international society. So they have parts here. People are working towards it, but it's not just one person that can make a difference. It needs to be a collaborative effort. a lot of people are using social media. A lot of my colleagues are on YouTube, like you are, trying to spread awareness. But the problem here is it's one person's word against the other. So the biggest issue is we don't have a representation. Now we did get a law passed, but this law was pending since 2013 in the assembly. It got passed in what, 2020? How long is that for a simple council law to be passed?
Eight,
For allied health.
years, yeah,
Pretty
it's quite a long
allied
time.
have been here for what, since 1960s, 1950s. They have been here in India. It was not like they were not. It's just that there is no unity. That's lacking.
Yeah, that's
That should,
totally.
you need that. Each profession you need that. But there I also see a lot of people who disrespect other professions. Any other healthcare profession. You need, everybody is a cog in a wheel. You can't work without the other. If the ward boy is not there, you won't get the ward clean. How will you take care of the patients? Same goes with the nurses. Or if tomorrow doctors don't turn up, who's going to actually prescribe anything to the patients? Even if the nurses and the allied staff is there. So everybody needs to work together. It doesn't work without that. You can't need
It's not a
profession.
one-handed thing.
It doesn't work like that. And at the end of the day, it's the patient who needs to be center of attention, not you. That is one thing that's lacking in India. It's always I am the center of attention. That attitude doesn't work. At least not for.
Definitely, sir. This thing will India will change. Hopefully, in future we can just hope for that.
Definitely.
Sir, talking about the sports nutrition. So, what are the different levels of intervention in your practice, sir?
What are
How
the
to
different?
different levels of intervention in your practice to diagnose the patient? That how you go and diagnose with the patient and everything, sir.
So, sports nutrition is a very minute part of my education, of my practice, because I generally deal with rehabilitation or what I prefer calling as prehabilitation or injury prevention. So, what I tend to do is I work with my patients, especially sports or elderly, let's say elderly. I work with them who have arthritis and who have, different disabilities in the joints and their angle, they are fused. I work with them for falls prevention. So what I see is I look at them as a person, how their body is moving with what they have left. If the joints are in tandem and they are working perfectly fine, they don't have any issues, no arthritic changes, no osteophytes, then they move smoothly. The forces that transmit, that make you able to sit or stand, is the ground reaction forces, your gravity at the end of the day. So how that's able to be transmitted to the upper and lower body is what you look at when you say biomechanics. So what I tend to do is when the things are altered in your body due to external factors or internal factors, like changes in your joints, we look at how this change will affect the change in the forces transmitted and how best to help the person who is affected to be able to use that transmission of forces in a different way to achieve their objective, like walking or something. A lot of elderly with joint issues and arthritic issues, they tend to have falls. With falls come pathologic fractures. Pathologic fractures are more deadlier because they tend to happen in long bones, and that may cause a fat embolism or something, which can cause a stroke or a heart attack, and a lot of complications that follow with it. So we tend to look at that way. So that's my part of job. But when nutrition comes into picture, nutrition is always important. Like in rheumatic arthritis, you don't want them to have a lot of foods that involve calcium, because they need calcium but only to a certain extent. Extra calcium goes into the joints and makes excess deposition. For example, people who have gout. Gout is basically uric acid deposition.
Yeah.
So their kidney functions need to be monitored. So and kidney functions, there are certain vegetables which have extra uric acid. So you tell them to avoid that. But there is no single way of going about it. Nutrition also is something that needs to be individualized. There is no gold standard for everybody that works for everybody. Everybody is a little different. Everybody has a predisposing factor in their life, especially in today's day and age. There are a lot of hereditary issues. There are a lot of issues because of the sedentary lifestyle. So it's not just one thing. It's a blend of everything, and you have to be realistic as well. If a person like if you're treating a person in India, you can't tell them to just go and have meat. 70% of the Indian population is vegetarian, right? You just
Right.
can't go and have this protein and that protein, and it doesn't work like that. You have to find alternatives. But I have a lot of my colleagues who are sports nutritionists or healthcare nutritionists or diabetic nutrition specialists and stuff like that who work with people. You have to work with a person to understand what sort of a lot of people have allergies like to nuts. Nuts are a great source of antioxidants, vitamins, and fiber. But you can't tell a person who has nut allergy to have nuts, right? So you have to understand that factor. That is always the case. Understanding and bridging the gap between the patient and your principles of treatment. They modify. They're not like rigid. They can't. That's the difference.
So, how do you build your trust with your patients? Because I think this is the toughest part for aspiring doctors.
Communication is the major key. The thing with patients is you have to listen and not just passively listen, which is unfortunately in today's day and age because of the time limitations and the burden on healthcare professionals. We even I have at a certain point of time in my life made that mistake, being a passive listener. You'll just keep saying when the patient is complaining or something, and you don't register what they are saying, and that comes across. That comes across to the patient. So they'll not trust you. They'll be like, "Hey, he didn't listen to me. What is he going to prescribe me for?" So the patient is not the injury or the disorder they present with. Patient is a person. You have to look them up as a whole. And especially if you're being attentive and talk to them and respond to them. Like, for example, when a lot of patients come, they'll come with an ankle injury or a knee injury. They don't have any comorbidities. They don't have diabetes. But sometimes they tend to start telling, I have a lot of weight and this and that. You have to listen. That comes into picture because then what happens is because of the weight, they are scared to put weight on their body parts that are healing. And without doing that active mobilization and active work to get better, they're not going to get better. There'll always be a lack there. So you need to build a communication. You need to build a rapport. And I had difficulties with it long back, especially because I studied in Karnataka. Manipal is in Karnataka. So it's on the border. So it's on the border of Goa, Karnataka, and Kerala. So a lot of patients that I had, 90% were from Karnataka. So they speak 2-3 different languages. That is North Kannada, South Kannada, and Tulu. Okay, and then I had a lot of other patients from this Kerala. They speak only Malayalam. It's not. They have good literacy rate, but the problem is a lot of patients are from below poverty line. When you are in a teaching hospital, you must have noticed that when you are working, studying, you are in a teaching hospital. Teaching hospitals tend to have concessions for people and below poverty line. So you get those sort of patients who are more illiterate. Even though these states are like highly literate states, the people that you are seeing in a hospital setting like that is illiterate. And how will you bridge a gap there? I was a person who studied in a convent school. So my first language as a person who learned everything was English. And then my mother tongue is Hindi. And I was born and brought up in Hyderabad. So, I can speak a little bit of Urdu. But, and Telugu. But that also, it was more of like conversational, slang, not exactly medical professional. So what we had to do is all of us who came from different states. There are a lot of my friends who come from North India, Mumbai, and in Manipal. So what we had to do, we took classes, we took Kannada classes, at least conversational Kannada, so we can manage with the patients. So you build it up then, you ask for help. They were my teachers, a lot of teachers, a lot of clinical staff, rather than you're just professors, you talk to the people who handle the day-to-day, that is nursing staff or the ground staff, cleaners, this and that. Make conversations with them, talk to them, learn the language. Sometimes it so happened I got Malayalam patients. I've never learned Malayalam. It's a very difficult language to learn, right? And what I used to do was I used to ask for help from the cleaners, from the nursing staff. Nursing staff generally knows Malayalam, so I used to ask from them, and you learn like that. You help get it translated. You make patient feel that what they are saying is important. So I'm listening and help them communicate. Uh, there was another instance in my final year examination. I got a patient who was deaf and dumb. So there was no language barrier because he can't speak or he can't communicate, and I didn't know sign language. But I somehow managed. I somehow managed to get the history, and because I learned in a place where I had a language barrier. So even if there were people who were speaking, I couldn't communicate. Then I learned to communicate with using props, using small things, drawing, doodling on my paper, something like that. It helps, but just understand that you might be trying to get to a diagnosis to treat a patient, but they are just asking for help. They don't know what a symptom is and what is the difference between a symptom and a disorder or a condition. You know that, but for them, their complaint is pain, or their complaint is the burn, or the swelling. But those are symptoms. You know that diagnosis is quite different, but they don't know that. All they care about is swelling, chalega ito, everything will be fine. That's the difference. You have to understand that, and you have to let them talk about it, even if they are taking a little longer. And a lot of people are rude. They'll cut off the patient and they'll be like, I'm asking you this question, not that question. Don't do that. Let them finish. Try to turn the subject around. You obviously, you guys are in graduation, so you must have dealt with a lot of friends or acquaintances who tend to blabber and who tend to be rude, mean to you, demeaning, bullying. What do? It's not always that you can pick a fight and fight with them. You tend to learn how to change the subject, right? Same thing goes with the patients. Learn how to, without being rude or demeaning, learn how to bring them to the topic at hand. That's the skill. That's the communication that you need to learn. That's the main.
Yeah, so actually that's the answer I was looking for, because sometimes the people giving the answers, but they are not the real life experiences. So what you shared is, I think, so much. We everyone should, the listening right now, would go through it, and because this is the tips we need right now to pursue that kind of a trust in the patient. So talking with the other kind of as a sports injury. So how your views, like what is the role of prevention in sports injury?
That's a very interesting question, and one of the most interesting topics of my profession for me personally. I don't believe in just rehabilitation, even though a lot of people equate physiotherapy with rehabilitation, and that's not the case. Essentially, in most of the specialities. For example, when we are treating a stroke patient, we're not just treating him to get a little bit of strength, a little bit of management and day-to-day activities. No, what we are treating them for is a better quality of life. What we mean by a better quality of life is they should not just be able to function and do their own chores by themselves, but also they should be at a stage where they don't cause injury to themselves in the future. Like, because say for a stroke patient, they'll be half paralyzed most of the time. So when they have that, they'll have weight issues, they'll have issues with balance and everything. sometimes the stroke is in the brain. It's in the brain, right? So that it can be in the area which basically controls your balance. If that's the case, then you can't resolve it because the brain tissue is there.
Yeah.
But what are the alternatives? What are the other? Your body always has an alternative. Okay, that's how human body is built. You have to understand what are the alternatives that you can work with. So when it comes to sports injuries and prevention, my belief is you have to look at the forces that are going to be used. A baseball player who is a pitcher requires different type of strength and balance compared to a baseball player who is more of a hitter. For example, if I come to the more common Indian sport, cricket, a batsman has a complete different set of muscles working for him than a fast bowler. And even a fast bowler compared to a spinner has a complete different set of muscles working for him, different set of balance, different set of
Yeah.
swing in. You have to understand that. And those are forces. So when you are, which need to be translated to an external object like a bat or a ball, but the forces are not internally generated. Your body doesn't produce force. It can, but there is a
Yeah.
limitation to it. Regardless of how strong you are, how muscular you are, what your body does is translate the ground's forces into the ball or into the bat, so you can hit easily. So when you saw Sachin Tendulkar standing and just flicking his bat, it was not that easy. He had a perfect stance. He used to have a perfect way of shifting his body from one leg to other so that the force is transmitted to his back. Otherwise, how come such a small stature person used to hit such a huge six? It's not like he was Pollard, where he's muscular, tall, and he can swing a bat any which way. That's the difference. It's the technique that matters. It's so when we are training a person, we look into that. We train them to get the best for their position or their area or their sport. And if we don't do that, they'll be prone to injuries. And by this, I don't mean to say that they can never injure if we work on this. But what we have to understand is, even if they are injured, the injury might not be as severe. So when the injury is not as severe, their rehabilitation time, which might have been 6 months to a year, will be cut short to 3 months and 2 months. A lot of us must have thought this, right? A lot of times when we see, a cricketer getting injured, they have a wrist injury, the shoulder injury, elbow injury, and they'll be dismissed only for like what, one series or a few matches, and they'll come back in a month or two, and they'll be better than before. How does that happen? Because they have trained for it beforehand, so their injury is not as severe. We always think that, I had similar injury, while I was playing recreationally. But see, I am suffering with it for such a long time, 9 months, a year, and it doesn't get better. How come they get better? They must be taking some, special medication, special injections. No, it doesn't work that way. They put in that effort to get better. I know of a lot of sports athletes who get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. How many of us get up at 4 o'clock? None of us. They get up at 4 o'clock. They have their pre-workout nutrition. They work out for a couple of hours, 2 hours, 3 hours. Then they have breakfast. Then they go for their sport activities. If they need to get rehabilitated, they'll go for a whole day of session of physiotherapy with physiotherapists. So they work at it. So it's not just the rehabilitation; it's how strong you were before the injury. Injury can happen due to mechanisms like tripping, or in football, tackling. It happens. It's a part and parcel of the sports world. How you manage it is what makes it different. That's why they are able to recover faster than other people who are just sitting. That's the difference in injury prevention.
So naturopathy is, prevention medicine. So how do you think that this sports medicine and our system of medicine can go parallel?
There are definitely many ways. I have always believed, that your body needs to work in a synchronized way, and it will not if you are not having good nutrients. for your muscle to work, you need good amount of calcium, potassium, and sodium. If you are lacking one of those, you are not going to be able to work properly. Even if how hard, doesn't matter how hard you try, you're lacking in something. So those things matter. Those things matter, and a lot of times what people don't consider, nutrition it's now become large a topic of discussion across the globe. But what other things that people tend to neglect is not just physical and nutritional health as matter, psychological health. How prepared are you to do certain things? How mentally calm are you? If you are already anxious, if you're already stressed, things don't work out. So when you talk about naturopathy, it's about aligning all those things, right? So a lot of people don't believe in modern medicine. A lot of people don't believe in naturopathy. For me personally, I don't think that matters. Okay, what matters is whatever type of medicine you believe in, believe, trust, wholeheartedly work towards getting your body working as a whole.
Yeah,
It's not
definitely.
about one is superior to the other. It's just that they are using different methods to gain the same outcome. How you are able to do that is what matters. Unfortunately, India has a very large quantity of population who don't stick to one type of medicine. They tend to mix and match. What they don't realize is if you are getting a medication in allopathy, which is, uh, say an antibiotic, they are they are not built out of thin air. They're not just chemicals. The chemicals are based out of plants.
Yeah,
So taking a plant-based medicine alongside Ayurvedic or any other natural medication, alongside this, you're compounding the factors. Sometimes they might interact, sometimes they might have side effects. There have been so many cases that I have dealt with in this COVID scenario. They take, Brahmi, they take Babul, they take this, they take. What you don't understand is Babul has a chemical property that can affect the pancreas. You have to know these things. When you don't know it, talk to a professional. Don't be stupid. Okay, there is a reason that there are professions. Ask people. Don't mix and match. So if you're already taking bubble and then if you're taking your anti-diabetic medication, you're compounding the issue. I
exactly.
have had many people turn up with hypoglycemia. It doesn't work out like that. You have to understand things. The medication is also built out of certain naturally occurring compounds. Not everything is synthetic. The synthetic also, if it is there, they are made by looking at a naturally occurring compound. Because that's rare in occurrence, to make it more accessible to people, it was synthesized in an artificial way. Scientists were not stupid. Things work out in a different way to make it more accessible to people. At a point of time, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, even a simple antibiotic like azithromycin or combiflam also, an anti-inflammatory, used to be so expensive because they used to use plant extracts directly, naturally occurring extracts. But then they found ways to artificially synthesize the same compound or a similar compound which has similar effects. So that's why they're cheap right now, comparatively, obviously. But they're cheap. It's not a drug that can only be used by rich. But you have to realize everything, whatever you eat also has a composition. Your turmeric has curcumin. So you need to know that too much of that also is not good for your health.
Actually,
People have been
yeah,
left, right, center since the pandemic started. So you drink 1 or 2 cups, that's more than enough. A pinch of turmeric is good enough to meet your standard levels of daily intake. You don't need to overdo things. Nothing is good in excess. That's the takeaway, I guess.
actually nowadays, since the pandemic started, everyone has become the doctor. Sir. We have lots of messages in the WhatsApp that this should be done, this should be done. So I think Google Baba is everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. The unfortunate part is, a lot of times they don't approach a professional who can help them. Like a lot of times people come to me with certain medical issues. Okay, I've studied pharmacy. I know pharmaceuticals. I know sports nutrition and doping. So I know a lot of chemical compounds that shouldn't be used and what should be used and what, but that doesn't make me a doctor who can prescribe you something. Okay, so don't come to me with medication issues. I try to direct them to the correct professional. But there's only so much you can do. You also have a time limit. There are only 24 hours in a day. You can't, run around on the
Yeah.
whims of people. Especially India, people tend to flock to relatives. Unfortunate as it is, how much ever we want to help them, if you directly approach the correct professional, it's easier, faster, and probably much more safer than trying to reach out to some wrong profession. It's important to know that.
So talking about the nutrition and the the ideal life, I would like to know that as per you, what are the things should we follow adapt to have a healthy lifestyle, sir?
For healthy lifestyle, what you have to cut down is on processed sugar for sure, because uh, anything that you take that you buy outside, it's contains sugar. The sugar that people put in, from soft drinks to your junk food to anything, the processed sugar that people put. We think, okay, I'm just eating a burger. No, the bun has sugar in it. The baking, they always have sugar and salt in it. Can't happen without that. Okay. What you need to understand is the components of it. What you need to get to understand is it's not the flour that's bad. The other components that was made to you. The same flour can be made as simple chapatis or a tortilla at home. The difference between those two is in a bun, you have a lot of other added micro components which are bad for your health, right? In a chapati, that's one thing. And the second thing that you need to basically know is bad cholesterol versus good cholesterol. You need to know that. That's a basic concept. If you are eating bad food that are rich in bad cholesterol, it's not just trans fats. Trust me, it's not anything, any other components of cholesterol. There are so many things that you need to understand that our Indian food that's made at home is not more balanced than any other food, because we have complex carbohydrates, we have simple carbohydrates, we have proteins because we use lentils quite a lot in India. So we have good proteins. Then we have vegetables that gives you fiber and other micronutrients and vitamins. So you have to understand that it's more balanced that way. Part one, and it's okay if you don't like it. Find alternative routes. Okay, a lot of people now are like, no, I like baked goods. It's fine, baked goods for baked goods, but you have to know that you can't bake them in you know a vegetable oil or in your
Yeah, how to cook it's
yeah.
perfection.
Have to understand how much of the oil content is going in your body, whether you require it. Like I have a few clients and few patients, sports athletes of mine who take raw chicken, who eat just semi-grilled steaks. That's their routine. That's what they eat. Only what they eat. And in terms of carbohydrates, they just take a few, carbohydrates from something like quinoa or brown rice or something like that, which is not generally an Indian diet, but that's what they do. What I have seen is they don't get fat. But if you or me eat a steak every day, we are going to get fat. Okay. Meat has fat. There's no two ways about it. Carbohydrates are converted in your body into fat because that's how your body stores energy. Okay, there's no other way around it.
Yeah.
So you have to understand how much. It's not just what you are eating; it's also how much you're eating. You can't say that I'm only eating rice chapati at home, or I'm eating vegetables, but then you're eating like 2 plate foods. No, you have to have a portion control. Your body doesn't need that much energy. So you have to understand the caloric intake as well as caloric expenditure. Our lifestyles are completely cerebral, more or less. So you can't expect having a sedentary lifestyle and having such a huge calorie intake. It has to go somewhere. It is going to be stored. You're going to get fat, and that fat deposition is going to cause you health for the future. There's no two ways about it. So if a person who's an athlete who works out 4 hours a day plus plays the sport, his caloric intake can be that high, like a 3,000 caloric intake or 4,000 caloric intake. That's okay because he's spending 5,000. He's still in a caloric deficit. That's why he's more ripped. That's why he doesn't look like he's gained any weight. That's why he looks muscular. That's the only reason. All of us have a six pack. All of us have muscles because we can't not have them. The problem is ours are covered in fat, theirs are not. That's the difference.
Sir, as per you, that how the allopathic medicine is, importance in your profession.
See, lot of us today, want quick fixes. But take any type of medication, allopathic or Ayurvedic or homeopathic, anything, naturopathy, anything. There's no quick fix. Is there in your profession as far as you've studied till now? Have you seen any where any of your professors telling you that this is a quick fix? You take this tomorrow, your diabetes will go. You take this tomorrow, you will be a muscular lean guy.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't. Same goes with any profession. So medications, they just help you set right your hormones. They'll help you set right an infection. They'll help you to manage certain things, get rid of certain things that your body that are alien for your body or whatever. But how you do with the rest of the things is what matters. See, for example, if you're talking about allopathic medication in particular, if you're having acidity, you are advised to take the medication that they prescribe you empty stomach. If you take it after food, that medication is not going to work. Then there are medications that are extended release, and then there are sustained release. Extended release medication work for a certain number of hours. Sustained release will work for a longer period of time. You need to know, like for diabetic medication, you have to take it after your food. If you take it before food, you're going to go into hypoglycemia. You're going to go into shock. So they work with your body. They are not magic. So, everything has its place and time. You can't just expect, I'll do whatever and expect a different result. There's so many people that do that, right? I have had a lot of people for weight management come. They'll be like, my cholesterol is still the same that was 6 months ago. So I'm like, have you done anything different? Did you change your lifestyle? Did you cut down on your garbage food? Did you start being more physically active? Anything at all? No, I didn't do anything different. So now how do you expect it to change? It will not change.
Yeah.
You have to understand that, if you're on statins, anti-cholesterol medication, they are only going to work to a certain extent. They'll help you boost your breakdown of cholesterol, and they'll decrease the deposition of cholesterol. But how they are doing that also matters. They are working on your body's receptors, right? So they are basically reducing your intake. What you need to understand at the moment you stop it, the thing is going to turn back. It's like that. So you can't just not work your body for the better and just think that taking this medication or taking that medication is just going to sort everything out. No, there has to be a little bit of lifestyle changes. There has to be a change in mindset, and that's the most difficult part of any of our professions. Getting people to understand that part, or at least making them do that. In my case, when it comes to rehabilitation, you were asking me about injury prevention. When there is a point, okay, when it stops being rehabilitation and starts becoming injury prevention or rehabilitation. So when a person gets normal function, normal range of motion, normal movement, and good amount of strength, they think I'm fine. I'll just go and start playing the sport again, or I'll start going for a job from tomorrow onwards. No, that doesn't work like that. What happens is, you have to train yourself for that. You You have to get your body and mind in sync to be ready for that. Just being ready in the top of the head doesn't work. It just works in Bollywood movies or Hollywood movies. It doesn't work in real life. You know, they should come in sync. Your body should be able to have that.
Yeah,
You know,
in
and there are
harmony.
objects that work, that come in the picture. So you have to understand that. You have to work, your body needs to work with the medicine. Medicine is not one-stop shop. It doesn't, magically clean everything out, especially all your bad habits over the years. So what you do today will definitely have impact on your future. So that's what matters. That's what people need to understand. It's not no different from allopathic or Ayurvedic to homeopathic. All of them work with your body. They don't treat.
Actually,
Yes.
ultimate goal is to healthiest body for each and every
Sorry.
medicine. Ultimate goal
Yes.
is healthiest body. So achieve the highest potential of your body is the ultimate goal for any medicine, I believe.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I
And if
think
you
all.
don't have power to work with the professional, and if you don't have that understanding and the trust, then it's not going to work out. Trust me, it's never going to work out. If you just be like, wo doctor de dega meko medicine, or
Yeah,
that therapist has assigned me the exercises, or I have gotten that decoction, or I've gotten this diet plan. Just getting that is not going to work. Okay, I am not going. If it were to happen like that, I would do strengthening exercises and balance exercises for all my patients. None of you would fall. None of you would enjoy yourself. That doesn't work like that. When you
everyone
go
has a
to a
different
doctor,
body.
you get a prescription, but they are not going to come to your home and feed you in your mouth, right? This time pe ye goli khao, that time pe you have to eat this. It will never work. It will never work like that. At certain point, you have to understand it's you who has to take care of yourself. That's one of the major factors in India that I felt with. Uh, I understand its tradition. I get the family dynamics and the joint family, and children taking care of their parents, parents taking care of the children. But at a certain point, even as a kid, or even as an adult or elderly, you have to understand you have to be the one to take care of yourself. There have been so many people. I'm sure you have seen it in your family. Everybody that is an Indian at least will understand this. Elderly will tell, why didn't you take medication? They'll be like, oh, my son or my daughter-in-law forgot to give it. It's just there. You can get up, you can pick up the medication yourself, unless you are completely bedridden and your hands and feet don't work. That's a different scenario altogether. But you have to understand that you are the one who's responsible for your body and your health, not the other person.
Yes, definitely. So I agree with you on that point. So before ending the session, just I would like to inform you that this is, most informative session and the very interesting session for everyone. So I think if people will enjoy. So before ending the session, one last question from my side is that what would be your message to us all of students to inspire or take away message for all of us?
For any student in any healthcare profession, I would say ask, be curious, and be willing to learn. Okay, learning never stops, especially in our profession. There are new discoveries every day. If you stop being a student, then your profession is gone. You have to be willing to learn, you have to be willing to ask. There will never be a point in your life where you will know everything. It's practically impossible. Einstein also didn't know everything. Okay, so you have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to let go of your ego, and you have to be willing to put the other person first, especially your patients. It's not your professors, not your colleagues, but your patients. They need to come first. That's when you will do great in your profession, and I'm sure all of you will do great. It's just you'll have to be having that trust and confidence in yourself. Because if you don't have that confidence and trust in yourself, I'm not saying ego, I'm saying self-confidence. If that's not there, then how will other person trust you? So if you don't know something, or if you are not sure about something while you're treating a patient, it's okay. We are human beings, we're not machines. It's okay to tell them. It's okay to tell them, okay, I'm not sure, let me consult my colleague, or let me ask my professor. professor, or let me check this out for you. Because I worked with two different population sets, so there were ethnicity differences. So there are a lot of things that affect South Asians and Indians that doesn't affect Caucasians or whites or African Americans or British Africans. So you have to take that into account. When that happens, yeah, you have to understand. Okay, I don't know this, then you should be willing to admit that. They'll be like, okay, he's at least willing to try and find out the correct diagnosis or the correct treatment for me. So he's putting me first. That builds confidence. That builds the trust with patients. You have to be, willing to do that. Don't let your ego cloud your judgment. Okay, that's the most important thing that you have to do. You have to be willing to keep growing as a person, as a professional. Then only will you be able to excel in your profession. Otherwise, it's no use. Education of 10 years, 20 years, it's no use unless you are willing to do that. Because every day in your profession, you keep learning.
So I think this is the wonderful session I have ever had, and this is the words you gave us will so much inspire to all of us, and listening to, right now, the people who are listening right now will also enjoy this, and this is the motivation we need. So thank you so much, sir, for joining with us, and thank you so much for giving us your important time. I hope that in future that we could connect with you in person, because right now the pandemic is ongoing, so we couldn't have the live session with you. But I wish that we could have it in future.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much for this. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I am sure we will get a time like that. It's a pandemic, and things will get better. But we all have to keep our heads, calm. We have to understand the gravity of the situation and follow the regulations, which are for our safety. It's not for anybody else. And keep going forward. We will definitely make sure that we meet up some way or the other. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Same here, sir. We are glad that we had a time to, such and have a awesome personality to guide us. Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so
sir, once again.
Thank you so much.